all good.
Yeah, normally I was gonna say normally Marco's here. He's not actually in GitLab. Lead Ticket's normally the one. You might have seen him in Discord. He normally kind of runs these things and takes control. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's around. Let's just ping. Lee, Marco, anyone joining the possible coding? Is it daytime in Europe, isn't it? Oh, Raymond. Hey, Raymond.
Hey, hello.
Raymond is from
Um,
GitLab.
yes, hi. But this is a community call, so um, yeah, anyone's free to run it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everyone is free to run it. I'm terrible at running things in general. And both Tilly and Britt are first time people.
Yes, so I was just gonna welcome you both. Don't recall seeing either of you before, so welcome. Thanks for
Thank you.
joining us.
Thanks. Thank you.
Um, so yeah, does anyone have anything particular they wanted to look at, discuss, pair on, debug? I'm gonna open it up to you all because there's plenty of opportunities here. Otherwise, if not, I'm sure we can find something to look at.
Brett, did you want to talk about your issue?
Oh yeah, for sure. So so like it was said, I'm my first time here and I've actually never contributed to open source before. So I've kind of gotten started up with the GDK and was really just looking for help finding an issue.
Mhm.
But Tilly kind of pointed me in the direction of one of the labels that might indicate that's good for first timers. I was filtering on quick win and seeking community contributions, but some of
Yep.
those tickets weren't really well defined yet. Um, so yeah, I was just looking for low hanging fruit and an opportunity to introduce myself. That's why I'm hanging out.
Cool. Yeah, so those pretty much are the labels. But yeah, as you've noticed, they're not always very nicely defined. I think sometimes those labels are a little bit more optimistic, like, hey, this would be a cool thing, and whoever created
Mm-hmm.
the issue might not necessarily feel it's particularly difficult. That's why they've probably added quick win or something like that on it. We are trying to work with our product teams and anyone who does create issues, that if they do create things, to try and maybe put some sort of implementation guide in there or some kind of pointer in the right direction. Um, there's always a big challenge with that because often the ideas, often the thinking behind, if I sit and do the implementation guide, I may as well kind of do the issue at the same time because it may sort of take some of the things around that. That said, the best way to, I mean, the way I started certainly is as a heavy user of GitLab, I started finding itches, and if only this little thing worked ever so slightly differently or whatever. Um, maybe a question I can ask, which often can help you find something, is are you front end or back end or neither or both?
I'm primarily a back end engineer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you familiar much with Ruby and Rails, or are you more au fait with another particular language?
Uh, my my current language, like professional use, is Java. I have a little bit of Ruby experience from like learning how to code.
Okay.
Rails a bit more limited, but yeah, Ruby is not totally foreign.
Okay. Cool. Any Golang under your belt?
No, but that is one of my goals.
Cool. So
Yeah.
you've managed to get GDK up and running, which is always a great place to start because that gives you the ability to to run everything locally, etc. Which also sort of leads me to, you've probably had a chance to at least kind of poke somewhat at the code, or at least look at the code. Now, our primary project, the sort of GitLab application itself, is Ruby on Rails, with a bit of Vue.js for our front end layer, and we inject those components. But added to that, we've got a number of other projects that sort of form part of the sort of main ecosystem. And that is, we've got the GitLab runner, which handles all of our CI side of things. That's a Golang project, so there's plenty of opportunity to get stuck into some Golang if you really wanted to sort of explore that side of things. Also, another big Golang project from us is, we've actually got a few. Gitaly runs that's our Git RPC service. So that's the service in a GitLab installation that handles the actual Git repository to disk farming for between the things. And then if you're a little bit more cloud native interested or anything, there's the Kubernetes, the agent for Kubernetes, which runs in your Kubernetes cluster and connects your cluster to GitLab. And in corollary, there's the CAS is the acronym. I can't think what that stands for just on the top of my head, but that's the agent server side of things. So that's the server side of the Kubernetes agent connection that then listens on the server side and helps your agent speak to that. So those are all Golang. And we also have our Terraform provider if you've played with the IAC side of things, which is also a Golang project. So there's quite a few projects actually that are Golang, and our use of Golang is increasing over time. That's not to say that Ruby is going anywhere. I don't think Ruby's going anywhere anytime soon. Most of I think the GitLab team are still very much Ruby engineers, and the core project isn't going to be changing anytime soon. I don't think like that. So there's a good opportunity to get stuck into a bunch of different languages there, and we can definitely help you find something. And I'm assuming you've probably found your way around. Thanks, Andrew, for posting that. But I'm assuming
I'm just going through the issue list and seeing something. It seems like a
cool,
really nice, useful, simple thing to get started with.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I was hoping to find a little UI thing. I know you said your back end.
But those are the easier project. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
easier
little front end niggles tend to be the easiest thing to at least get you into the flow of how the merge request process happens within GitLab.
Yeah.
Because it's
we also have so our front end framework, which is Vue.js based, has a nickname called Pajamas, that's our front end system. And there is always Pajamas migrations available. One of us can find them, and certainly after the call, I'll be happy to sort of dig out a link for some of those if you're ever interested. But really, that's just migrating the raw HAML components that are there currently into the appropriate Vue.js components. So there's a load of components that have already been built, already been identified in Vue.js, and somebody just needs to migrate pages. But yeah, maybe finding some of those smaller ones, although they're a bit more front-endy, but maybe finding some of those little smaller ones may be just a great one to get you through a couple of sort of first merge requests.
Yeah, no, definitely. Actually, the YouTube channel I think has a walkthrough on how to do one of those migrations. That rings a bell.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
okay, great.
So yeah, those are definitely a good one to come up with. I'm assuming, and maybe wrongly, but I'm assuming you've stumbled across the Discord, so you're in the Discord channel. Okay, so what I'll do after this call is I will dig out a link for there should be an issue somewhere identifying pajamas migrations that are available. So I'll dig that up and pop that in, as well as seeing if we can find another couple of easy-ish ones, smallish looking issues, anything to get you started. But feel free to interact with us there. That channel is a great place to interact with both the team, like my team, and I realize I haven't actually introduced myself. Andrew knows who I am, but neither of the other two do. So I'll get to that in a sec. But the Discord's a great place to interact with both us and the community. So there's other active contributors on there that can also often answer questions or anything.
Cool.
So just to flip back and kind of do this call back to front. I'm Raymond. I've been with GitLab for just over a year now, but I've been a contributor in the GitLab community for several. I think I started contributing in about 2018. And the team that I'm in, you will have seen myself, maybe not as often as you will. If you've looked at some of the recordings of these calls, you'll have probably seen Lee on some of these calls. Lee and I are part of the contributor success team, and our role at GitLab is to make the process of contribution to GitLab as easy as possible, and to help contributors like yourselves find the best things to work on and get unstuck and do anything. So any questions you have around the process or anything like that, feel free to reach out to us. We're literally here for yourselves. So yeah, that's what we're here for. Questions, it'd be really interesting if you have any feedback around the GDK process and the installation process. If you happen to run into any issues, those sorts of things would also be great. If you can maybe log an issue on the GDK project or something like that. If you did run into any issues during the setup, help us know what those issues are, because the easier we can make it to get GDK installed and running, then the easier it is to help other people start contributing too.
I had 0 bumps getting it installed. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. That's
Wow,
that's always the best
very
to hear, but it's
impressive.
not always
I'm
the
shocked.
case. So
I set aside the long duration of time. I'm like, when there are issues, it's environment issues, like getting spun up, but so far so good. I might have an issue where I forgot the password I set for root, but that's not install related.
You didn't go with
Exactly, and
password
that's-
123 exclamation.
I must not have. That's why I was like, what's going on here? A B C D 1 2 3 4.
That one is at least fairly easily recoverable. There is a console command that you can use to just reset that, and it is
Love it.
documented somewhere in our docs.
Yep, I will
and
find
again,
that.
I can also help you fish that out. But yeah, any questions you have along the contribution journey, whether it's hey, how do I do this, or anything. There's a lot of stuff documented, but to go and sit there and read the docs, you're going to be overwhelmed. So I kind of use the docs more as like, hey, how do I do something, rather than like, okay, let's just go read it all, because there's a lot there. It's not a small project, but we are a very welcoming community. So really welcome. Thanks for your interest in the community, and we're really looking forward to taking that journey with you.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tilly, on your side, have you contributed yet? Also, new contributor.
First time. I guess a few days ahead of Brit. I have an issue that's just fixing up an error message on the Vue front end.
Okay.
So I picked something super simple just so I could figure out all the periphery stuff like merge requests and all that first, and using the GDK. It's all going smoothly. I think the only bump I ran into with installing GDK was the socket path was too long, but I just had to change the directory, and then it worked. And yeah, I think that all sounded good. My ears pricked up as soon as you said go. That's my main interest in back end work, and I've got some front end experience with Vue and like PHP with a previous job, so Rails shouldn't be too difficult to pick up, I don't think, but definitely around the Go Terraform provider Kubernetes stuff interests me way more. So I'll be probably heading that direction fairly quickly.
Okay. Well, like I said, if you have any issues, if you have any problems scratching out any issues, or you're looking for something, there is a channel in Terraform. Well, there is a channel in Discord where our Terraform team are actively engaged. Also look out for some of the community calls. They host a community call fairly regularly, and it gives you a great opportunity to chat to the team directly. But yeah,
I'm really curious what they're going to be doing now then with the HashiCorp relicense.
I think we all are. So there's
because I'm pretty certain they'd say GitLab is a competitor to Terraform to some extent.
Well, we're not hosting Terraform. We're not. Yeah, I suppose we're not trying to replace Terraform in any way. We're looking to enhance. But yeah, I think we do have some issues with some of our teams looking at the impacts of that and exactly what's happening.
It looks like OpenTF might be an easy migration path though, if that
it may be, yeah,
going.
and it may just be the way some of the industry goes. But as for our own reaction, I think there are some people probably a little bit more knowledgeable in that space. I think actively looking at it. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't fragment the community too much, because that's always a challenge with any of these changes. Is forks are great or anything like that, but your biggest problem is fragmenting the community. And yeah, like we had the whole Elasticsearch and OpenSearch kind of fragmentation when Elastic went that way, and there's been a couple of other things. So yeah, always challenging. Great. So did you want to maybe do some code diving or something? There's this issue that Andrew surfaced up here. We can always take a look at that, or we can look at something.
I'm not sure if this either of those interest you, Britt.
They both do. Yeah, the database one, it looks like we're just changing like what a column will accept.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what they want the solution to be there. It looks like they've just removed a constraint, and so now you could potentially store a gigabyte of data in the description column.
Let's do it.
But then, like, do they want the constraint added back just less than a gigabyte, or what? Yeah.
The question is,
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say that the question is, it's all good and well having the constraints or not in the database, but what's the model also allowing or something? So, but yeah, because the model, the Rails model should be gatekeeping that also.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the database side of things always scares me a little bit. I've done a few, but usually just limited to adding a column or something.
Never really.
Yeah, it's never easy.
But what was the
maybe I'll just take a moment just to mention our review process. So when a community contributor puts an MR in, generally that goes to through a two-tier review. So we have a number of reviewers identified for the particular code base, and if you're on like the main GitLab app, that's either front end or back end. So you may get if you've touched both front end and back end, you'll probably get a reviewer for front end and back end. Additionally, if you've touched database, there'll be a database review thrown in there too. And then once the reviewer of each has approved, that will then go to a maintainer for review, and then the last maintainer in the chain will generally just will be the person to merge it. So the smaller we can keep changes, the easier it is, because the quicker it can go through review processes. So if possible, splitting something up into a front end and a back end change as two separate MRs then allows you to get them both to go through the system. Another thing I did want to mention, but it's disappeared out of my brain, so that's all good. Oh yeah, the community forks. I don't know if either of you have run into the community forks.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So the community forks is a project that we have currently. You can absolutely fork the GitLab project and just work on your own fork, but any changes that you do, those CI minutes are going to be coming out of your own account's CI minute budget, which by default is quite low when you start pushing a couple of big GitLab changes in. The community forks is a project that we have that you can join, and you can then work on a shared fork. That fork we then take the CI minutes for, and you just create a branch on that fork, and you can push into that fork. So if you haven't already seen it, I'll pop a link on the chat, because yeah, it's definitely you just can create, you can request access. There's some instructions there on the issue, and you can request access through that, and it's one less thing you then have to worry about is maintaining your own fork. Of course, you're still absolutely welcome to use your own fork, but here there's forks that are kept in sync automatically, and it's just automatically done for you. So the community forks is definitely a good way to get started. And one less thing you have to worry about is managing your own CI budgets and keeping your forks up to date, etc. Okay, so
Awesome.
Andrew, you are fast.
Sorry, I'm just spamming the chat with everything here.
No, that's amazing. I'm such a reading visual learner that I'm like, it'll take me 5 minutes to just go through that initial thread.
Yeah, I think I probably should have done that rather than jumping into it.
It's all good. So Andrew, as one of our core team members, has also probably got a little bit of well, I'd say a lot of familiarity with the code base, so he knows his way around the code base a fair amount. So he probably also jumps through the things just a lot more quickly. I mean, I know that I still have to kind of poke around that and try to figure out, okay, what was the model that you're doing and how is that doing it, and yeah. As a caveat, the only Rails I've ever worked on, or the only Ruby I've ever worked on, is GitLab. So I've never worked on any other Ruby projects before working on GitLab. So yeah, it's still sometimes like I catch things and I'm like, okay, I have to kind of figure out what this code's doing or whatever, and I'm like, oh, cool, Ruby has that nice easy bit of magic that makes life easier there. Cool.
I did have a question around. Oh, sorry, you go, Britt.
No. I was just going to make a comment about getting familiar with a language and a domain at the same time, like having not really worked in the domain of like CI/CD and all that. But yeah, nothing. No questions.
I did have a question around commit message guidelines and branch names and all that sort of stuff. I did find some documentation out there, but some of it felt like general advice just on good practices. And I had a quick look at some other branches and I couldn't find anything that seemed sort of super strict or consistent. Is there anything around that?
That is a very good question. Yes, there is something, and while I try to answer that, I will speak to part of that. So the branch names, there's no real requirement around that. I think there's a couple of branch names which are specific to releases. So we use a release branch mechanism once we cut releases. But as a community contributor, you wouldn't be making your branch on the upstream repository anyway. So that should be okay. Within your space, anything. There is a couple of hooks and GitLab magic bits that allow us to that allow you to automatically link a issue to your merge request if you use the issue number in the branch name, but none of that is particularly required. What you will see is when you create your merge request, the GitLab bot will run a danger job, and danger will go and complain about some things you're able to fix as a community contributor, some things you're less able to fix. Some of those are also more something to worry about once you're on your sort of 17th merge request rather than your first merge request. So things like labeling the merge request for the right group and locations and that, I wouldn't worry about too much when you're sort of starting your journey. As you get familiar with the process and the organization, that makes life a little bit easier there. Thanks for popping that link up there, Andrew. So I think the one hard fast rule that we have with commit messages is it should start with a capital letter, and the first line of the commit message should be less than, I think it's 80 characters or something. Everything other than that, but danger will generally mention that in its comments. So
with DangerBot, is that set up on the community fork for everybody by default? Okay.
Yes. So
I was going to say, if you're using a personal fork with the danger thing, you need to set up an access token.
Yeah. So thanks. That's another benefit of using the community forks is that DangerBot is set up for those pipelines. So you should see the danger messages coming through. Whereas if you're using a personal fork, it just kind of won't talk, and then you'll be like, hey, Raymond said that danger would be doing this funny thing, and it isn't, but why? And then the other piece of interest you need to be aware of is if you do add a feature or a bug fix in your commit message, the trailer, if you add a changelog trailer, then it will add the item for a changelog. And we do recommend all community contributions to put a changelog entry in, because then you'll get credited, etc. In the changelog as the author of those fixes or features. So yeah, definitely worthwhile adding those. Did that help somewhat to answer questions around that?
That's super helpful. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Most of those restrictions also go on your the first commit of that merge request. Most of the time we'll probably squash the merge request when we merge it. So yeah, the first one's probably going to be the one that needs to conform the most. But yeah, that link that Andrew popped in is a good one on that one. I can't off the top of my head find the other one that talks about the commit message, but I will make sure that I follow up this call with a link to that also. Once I find
Thank you. That's great.
Great. Alrighty. Just looking at the time. Any other questions? I think we might have a bit of time to sort of dig and poke and code, or we can answer some extra questions if you got.
I've got no more questions, but if anyone wants to take the lead on code spelunking, I will stay.
I was actually going to ask a question.
Yeah, please do.
Does GitLab still require or recommend opening up an issue before opening up the merge request for something? Do you know?
It's not required by any means. It is recommended, especially if what you're trying to do requires a little bit more than either one MR or a little bit more explanation of what you're trying to do. So if it's a small bug fix or something, even cosmetic that you're changing or something like that, generally an MR straight in is almost certainly fine, because the MR itself kind of explains the fix, etc. The more esoteric it becomes, the easier it might be to have an issue, or at least link your merge request to an existing issue. I find the best way, if you're trying to propose something, maybe that's either a new feature or sort of a quite a big fix. If there's an existing issue, that's great. We can link that to that, or getting an issue up and having an MR almost hand in hand with that issue to kind of helps explain the issue or anything. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, if it's small MRs, they're a lot easier for the team that's reviewing them to load them up into Brain and figure out if they kind of work. If it's a bigger, chunkier MR, definitely the more explanation you can get into the merge request itself or an actual issue, then helps the reviewer understand exactly what it is you're trying to achieve with that merge request. But along the way, definitely, reaching out to us on Discord and just even asking for guidance maybe, and saying sometimes somebody else can help you find an existing issue or something that's talking something else, or possibly even we might even be able to get one of the team members related to that particular area of functionality into Discord and actually join the conversation that way. But yeah, definitely having the conversation in a merge request or an issue does help us then have record of that conversation and for posterity, so that when someone looks at that change in 6 months or 6 years, then they can kind of figure out, hey, what was the motivations behind it when it happened.
There we go.
Cool.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So yeah, we can possibly do some. So going back to this issue that we had with the larger description text limits, we completely removed the limit in that as a quick fix. Okay. But it was, so really this particular one says, can we, yeah, to reintroduce that. So let's have a look at what is the model. So let me try to do some sharing here.
Andrew posted another link kind of showing that there is what is this? Is this active record? Application record? There's some validation happening on the length, so maybe it's getting overridden somewhere.
Yeah, I think so in the description for that issue ending in 236, it says that there were production errors when people were trying to fork www.gitlab.com.
Okay.
I think I've lost where that was now.
Yeah, that was actually at the top of the so the issue that you linked, which is 370.236, sort of talks about the production issues. And yeah, that was caused. Those were caused by the original restraints going in.
Yeah, and it looks like the GitLab.com repo had a description that was longer than the 255 character limit that was imposed. So when they tried to fork that project, it was the namespace description that was too long, and that was causing an error. So they removed that check constraint, but kept the model constraint. So if you tried to edit a project or a namespace details thing, you couldn't go over that 255 limit, but existing ones wouldn't stop you from forking them. So there's only a model constraint in there at the moment. There's no database one.
Okay, so yeah, I suppose the fix for that would then be to add some sort of database constraint, but then that database constraint would there'd need to be some sort of check against the existing database to make sure that the existing records don't fall
Exceed
outside that.
constraint. Yeah, I don't actually think this should have the contributor label on there, because to do something like that, GitLab would need to run internal database checks to see what the actual maximum description is.
Yeah. So
and even doing that on the SaaS one, it's potentially a breaking change for existing customers running self-hosted, because they could have gigantic descriptions, and then that would break regardless of what GitLab.com has as the maximum.
Yeah. So and that's just something interesting just to mention, especially for first-time contributors. If you're not aware, GitLab.com runs exactly the same software that is being run in self-hosted. There's just a SaaS flag sort of enabled on it so that it does some things ever so slightly differently. But any changes that we do introduce, we have to be aware that they need to run in GitLab.com. So whatever data is running behind there, they need to work quite seamlessly with that, as well as any of any customers potentially running running GitLab as a self-hosted option. The same change needs to work with that. So there's a lot of potential juggling when you're starting to do like impact differences with like adding a constraint, because you just need to kind of make sure what's happening. And I see there was some discussion on that initial issue.
I'm just thinking like the rollout for this would be like multiple major releases, because you'd need something like a warning for administrators of self-hosted that GitLab's going to introduce a database constraint on the details, and they have projects that are over that constraint. And then in some major version later than that, introduce that constraint. I mean, you could do it in some minor releases, but I feel like in a point release is a bit of an odd time to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think if I just open so let's just I'm gonna share.
I think that first issue I sent is much easier to deal with.
I'm realizing that now.
just add some text into this call out.
Yeah, so if I just open up that model in here, so this is the namespace detail model, and this does have that validation. So really, that there should be very little over that around. Okay, obviously anything that came from the wherever that data lived before this model was introduced, because I think it was migrated from
Yeah, any old like legacy projects, I guess, could potentially have a, what is that, a description, a namespace description more than 255.
Yeah.
And I think that might
yeah.
have been what the issue was with the GitLab.com one. What is the GitLab.com description now? It's not very long at all, actually.
The www.gitlab.com description is, sorry, my GitLab is reauthoring me via SAML. Give me a second. Okay, it's been reduced to, so this is that is the current description, but that is now 250 characters. So it's been reduced to just under that limit.
Lines?
Don't know if my thing is counting new lines at all.
Yeah.
That's all we can find out. Yeah, it's counting new lines.
Okay.
So and there may be it may actually be that. But yeah, so it's currently sitting just under, but yeah, I think the biggest issue came with people trying to fork that and do that. So it's absolutely something we could pop in, but then we'd need to have some level of verification, and there would need to probably be at least somebody doing an audit against the database to see if that constraint is being violated elsewhere in the database. That's not in .com, and that would need to be run internally because we need someone with access to all of the data, because obviously there's customer specific data in there too. So yeah, like you say, might not be the best candidate for picking up as a first issue. What I could maybe suggest is to pop a on that issue, maybe just to pop a question on there. So it has been, someone has added seeking community contributions. So if somebody did want to pick it up, pop a message on that issue, and mention Christina and perhaps who else on there? Maybe Elper or one of the engineers that have been currently working on it, or yeah, Elper seems to have logged it, and maybe ask if we would need to do some validation against that, against the database before implementing that. That's a great way of identifying, hey, I'm interested at looking at resolving this particular one, but at the same time, is there something that I can do as a community contributor? And because yeah, then if it's not really ideal for community contributors, then that's fine too. But or maybe somebody could go and say, hey, it's fine, the database is clear, let's go ahead and implement a thing, or the database isn't clear. But yeah, like you said, it may be something that we need to then alert self-hosted customers about. So database changes, all the things you have to worry about.
Yeah, database changes and feature flags. They're great fun.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm trying to trigger that check constraint for a description, and I can't trigger it for some reason.
Did you want to share? Or are you just doing that in GDK?
I'm doing it on production.
Okay.
I'm literally just going. I've got the fork of the www GitLab.com thing, so I can show you what I'm doing. It's nothing fancy. Nope, that's captions. Screen share. This thing. So I've just pasted in a bunch of the alphabet lots of times.
Yeah.
And it still lets me do it. So I don't know what's going on there. Like, this is way more than... way more than 255.
Yeah, so that's possibly an interesting one. And that's maybe because that restraint is actually on namespace. So if you go up to your group, or you're working under your user, so you're not working under a
Yeah.
namespace.
See, I was
And
actually
that's
just about to create a new group to see if that was
Yeah.
different.
I was gonna say, I think that particular constraint could be happening on, given that it's on namespace, it could be happening under a top level group rather than a user.
oh gosh, 26, 52. Oh, I don't know. I'm just going to paste it. Oh, there you go. Can't type anymore now.
Okay,
So this actually has
so
a character limit on this one.
so front end's actually got a character limit on there too.
Yeah. Let's bypass that for a second. Max length is slightly longer than the database constraint as well.
Okay,
Yeah, so
so
it does
right, so
have front-end validation there.
you both front end and model validation. So that's interesting to run into. So yeah, I suppose the model's doing validation, the front end's doing validation. Does it need database validation? Or maybe it does need database validation. Again, that's one of the things that we could pop onto the into the issue to ask the team members that are maybe a little bit closer to that particular end of the code, whether they believe that it should be in place.
I mean, in general, it's good to have your database constraints as a last line of defense kind of thing. I don't know, because I don't know how the GraphQL works, actually. That might have a bypass in there by accident or something. But yeah, I think it's worth having a comment on here.
Cool. Well, that was short and sweet. We managed to do a little bit of investigation there. And you know what? Closing issues that are no longer valid is absolutely a great form of contribution too. So if you find something, I helped a community contributor a couple months ago get a merge request in and close an issue that had been open for 7 years, and it was like a 3-line fix. So there's some issues that have been hanging around for some time, and it's so almost edge case or something that never really received priority. But the actual fix, once it takes a few minutes to delve in, the actual fix is quite valid. Or something's being logged. It's a low priority bug because it doesn't really affect anyone, but it triggers every now and then. And it was fixed at some point because of other fix, or the code was refactored or something, and it no longer occurs. So closing bugs out is absolutely a great way of contributing to. So if you ever do run into an issue that is for a bug or something, if you can't reproduce it following the reproduction steps and it looks like an old bug, it may very well be that it isn't valid any longer, feel free to reach out to one of the team on that bug and mention someone and say, hey, I've just tried to reproduce, here's some of my reproduction steps. I've just tried to reproduce this on a current version. It doesn't seem valid. Is this bug still valid? Because at that point we can close out one of the bugs, which definitely helps. We've got 60 odd thousand open issues, so every one of those that we can close definitely helps someone somewhere along the line. Great, and I think
Cool.
that probably brings us towards the end of our time. So probably good opportunity to wrap up the chat. Thank you both for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again. I'm definitely excited to see some merge requests in there. Feel free to reach out on Discord. Feel free to join us again next week or on another Tuesday for a similar session, hopefully with a MR and you're just trying to get the tests running or something like that. Absolutely, and we can definitely look at doing some sort of help with getting your MR over the line or something along those lines. But yeah, great to have you with us, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thanks, Ray.
Appreciate
Thanks, Andrew.
everyone.
Thanks everyone. Take
Nice
care.
meeting you.
guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.